Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh, Hashem Mashiach, Malaki Bashai, double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting and laboring for the second coming of our Lord Yahushua. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnify the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent, and they're abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Akwat out there, the sincere sisters that are out there zealous, diligent, and on fire, moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom to the ancient men, shalom to the children, shalom to the elect of Israel scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom Kasia, servant 144K, brother Azariah, shalom King, Yaakov Israel, Dinah, Sweet Styles, Don Israel Tamid, Nigel Blends, Yvette McKellar, Anthony Knox, Shalom Williams, Nakamai, shalom King, Kyoko Banyamyan, HBK Ent, Benjamin Youngwolf, Shalom. And again, Shalom to everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. Right? Again, if you're watching, if you're paying attention to what the Heavenly Father is doing in the earth, then you're aware of the internal war that's going on in Europe right now. Right? You have NATO, you have the Western powers, which is the European Union, and their military faction, which is NATO, locking horns, and it's talk of World War III. And this is ultimately prophecy in the Bible, right? For brothers that may not be aware, right? We're always, right? Well, most of the time through the spirit of poverty, how about Shemel Shah, we encourage our brothers, right, to watch. And we often kick it off with precepts on watching. Everybody should be watching. Everybody should be paying attention and keeping your ears to the streets to see what the Heavenly Father is doing in the world of geopolitics. What is the Most High doing in the world within the nation of Israel? What spirits the Heavenly Father has stirring up in the minds of these kings? You should always be watching, right? You have to remove yourself from this world, right? Of course, the Most High said you use the world and don't abuse it. But if you're too engulfed into this world, and surfeiting and excess takes preeminence over watching and the prophecies, then you're going to go down a road that you might not come back from, right? So this is the book of St. Mark, chapter 13, and I'm going to read verse 32. But if that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, it's like it, neither the Son, but the Father. So only the Heavenly Father, Yahweh himself, the high and lofty one that inhabits eternity. He is the only one who knows when Yahweh Shah is going to be sent to redeem the children of Israel, right? The elect. Not even the angels know. Verse 33, take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. See, you never know, man. Anything can hit the fan any given second. And you don't want to be caught with your spiritual garment ripped in pieces with all these spots, wrinkles, strange apparel on, strange garments, naked. You don't want to be caught like that. You want to have your loins girded, right? You want to have your staff in your hand, your feet. It's like your feet girded with the preparation of peace. Greatly paraphrasing. You want to be ready, man. Just like in the days of the Passover, the Most High charged us to be ready. We had our loins girded. We had our mind ready. We're looking for this place to go down. So you have to take heed of your spirit. Take heed of how you're moving, how you're serving the Most High, what things you're lacking, what things need to be improved on, how your family structure is. Are you studying? Are you reading? Are you praying? Are you being diligent? And you have to watch and pray, right? You never know when it's time to go, when the Most High is going to ring that bell, right? When all hell breaks loose in the earth, it can happen anytime. It can happen tomorrow. It can happen 12 hours from now. Only the Most High knoweth, right? Verse 34, for the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. So the Son of Man is Yahushua. The far journey he went to, you read about in Acts chapter 1 and 9, where he ascended back up into the third heaven to sit on the right hand of Yahweh himself. And he has given authority to his servants and has commissioned every man to work in the vineyard. Verse 35, watch therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning. And again, like we always harp on, these are different phases in the night. The even time is the earlier stages of the night, right? That 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. range. That midnight is that 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. range. The cock crowing, the roosters would crow anywhere between 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. And that morning is 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. So throughout these different phases of the night in the last days, Yahushua can return. Mark 13 and 36. Lest coming suddenly, he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. Let's get one more real quick in Luke 21. Right, we'll dive right into what's going on in these last days. Right, we have to go into what's going on in the last days. St. Luke chapter 21 and 34. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unaware. So always examine how you're spending your time. Did not the Most High say in Ephesians chapter 5 and 15, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. So you have to redeem your time. Watch your time management. How much time do you spend scrolling? How much time do you spend on social media? How much time do you spend watching TV? How much time do you spend in your hobbies or extra so-called curricular activities? Right? Are you surfeiting in your job? Are you working endless hours because you're really trying to prolong your life in America? Right? What are you really doing, man, with your time? You have to take heed, or your mind is going to be turned up doing things that are unprofitable. That's what overcharge means. And surfeiting. Surfeiting is excess. And drunkenness is you're all into the wine of this world. You're caught up with the cares of this life, man. You know? And then all hell breaks loose on you because you wasn't focused on what the Most High told you to focus on. Luke 21 and 35. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. So it's going to happen like a trap. Like when a bird falls into that gin or a bear falls into that bear trap, they do not expect it to happen, but it happens. And when it happens, it's nothing but pain. And you can't escape from those. I've never seen a bear just say, hold up, let me kind of calm down, right? And we just open this up and move my hand and let me go to the ER room and get no, man. They stick their hand in there, they're caught, and it's over with. Let me get another quick precept, right? Let me go to Ecclesiastes 9. I'm going to go back to that. Right, let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter. Right? It's like Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse number 12. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them. And the evil time is coming. You have many evil times. People fall into unforeseen evils, unforeseen circumstances, things that they can't predict. But there's a chief evil time coming on the earth, the hour of temptation, World War III, Jacob's trouble, all hell breaking loose. And men are going to be trapped in that evil time when it falleth suddenly upon them. I've never known a fish that knew he was going to get taken and still took the bait, man. They have no idea. If they did, they wouldn't go to the bait. I never seen a bird knew that the gin was there and the snare was there, but they still decided to fall into the trap. Right? So these things are going to catch people by surprise, man. Right? But if you're watching, you're not going to get caught by surprise. So going back to Luke chapter 21 and 35. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore. A ICBM missile could launch off any second, man. And it's some heavy talk going on between Russia and NATO. Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. This is the spirit that the men of the Most High must be in. Watching, praying, examining themselves, pushing, going hard, and understanding that the time is at hand. We want to be found worthy when it's all said and done. That's why we labor to be found worthy of Yahweh Bashmi Abashah, right? And we want to escape all the things. I don't want to get caught up in this madness coming to the earth, man. When you go back and read 2nd Ezra 15, who wants to get caught up in that? When you read 2nd Ezra 16, who wants to be on the ill, bad side of the Most High in those days? We want to escape those things by watching and praying and going as hard as we can with serving the Lord, right? So these are the things that we have to examine, and this is the spirit that we have to be in. I mean, there's no other way, man, right? There's no other way. So if you're watching, you're seeing this. It's some of this stuff is 2 days ago, 1 day ago. This is 18 hours ago. Russia dares NATO to shoot. So if you're watching, you're noticing that Russia is the Most High has a spirit on Russia, right? Really, it's the Most High who has a spirit on Russia that is provoking Western Europe, Poland, Denmark, right? Chiefly NATO into a global conflict, right? So we're going to dive into this real quick. And Russia is found in the Bible. It's from 19 hours ago. And NATO is found in the Bible. So we're going to dive into the 10 toes. These are the last days of the 10 toes. And we're going to dive into the 10 toes. They're found in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, right? We're going to dive into the 10 toes as well. But right now, you have a potential global war that can kick off while people are asleep, man. Right? While people are dreaming and working overtime on a Shabbat and waking up and trying to figure out what chores they're going to get into, or what's the next move going to be in the world, what club they're going to go to Saturday night. At that same time, Russia could launch an attack and literally cause World War III, or NATO can respond and do a launch against Russia, and this thing can really kick off, right? So Russia dares NATO to shoot, right? So Russian incursions into NATO airspace in 2025. So you can see Russia they pushing, right? You can see them pushing. Norway, right? Estonia, Poland, Romania. They're already fighting in Ukraine, and Denmark. So they're sending drones out there. Now, NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, they're divided and they're conflicted on how they're going to respond. You have some European countries saying, shoot them down, the hell with Russia. Who do they think they are? They're pushing closer. They're playing with the lion. They're playing with with us. You got other European nations say, you know what? Let's just hear what they have to say. Let's figure out why they're sending drones. Maybe this is for our good. So there's division going on, right? There's division going on. So we're going to read a little of this, and we're going to show in Bible prophecy how this pertains to us and our salvation, and where you can find these events going on in the last days, man. Because this thing is real, right? This thing is getting real. It's getting real fast. So this says weeks of Russian incursions into NATO skies have pushed the U.S.-led alliance to the brink of an explosive choice: strike back or stand down. I mean, and that's all it is. That's what it's coming down to. Nobody has really ever seen NATO get pushed into a corner like they're getting pushed to right now. Nobody's ever. Who would have thought NATO is supposed to be the world's greatest military alliance? England, France, the United States, Canada, Germany, Spain. These are the leaders of the free world, and they're getting backed into a corner, conflicted on what they should do and how they're going to respond to what Russia is doing, right? And really, this is Esau on Esau action, man. You know, when you go to Revelation, let's go to Revelation, the 6th chapter, real quick. Right? Let's go to Revelation 6. I'm going to go back to that. But I want to get Revelation chapter 6, and I want to read verse number 3. Right? Salaki, Revelation chapter 6 and 3. It reads, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. So the prophecies is being revealed to John the Revelator, right? Verse number 4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Right? So this spirit is back on the earth. This spirit is here. The horse that is red represents a particular demon, right? An angel, if you will, a spirit that is working on the minds of these Edomites that they could destroy each other. If I could bear with me, that they could destroy each other and that peace can be taken from the earth, right? These horses represent spirits, right? We pulled this up earlier. Let me just prove that real quick, that these horses are not actual horses. There's no actual horse that could take peace from the earth. I've never seen it. That would be a hell of a man that breeds those horses, and all of a sudden they could just take peace from the earth, right? Quick precept. Zechariah chapter 6 and 1. And I turned and I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots out from between 2 mountains, and the mountains were mountains of brass. So he literally saw these 2 mountains of brass and these chariots that came. But the mountains of brass and the chariots have a deeper meaning behind it, right? Here's the point I want in verse 2. And the first chariot were red horses, and in the second chariot, black horses, right? So you have spirits of war, you have spirits of affliction and judgment. That's what the red horse represents. The red horse represents a spirit of war. And why is it red? Because who came out red? All over like a hairy garment. Whose name was called Esau? The so-called white man. That's Genesis chapter 25 and 25. And the first came out red all over. So that he's red in the spirit because he is about war. He stretched forth his hands against such a be as peace with him. His words are softer than oil, but war is in his heart. So the red horses, when you read about them in the Bible, they represent war and bloodshed. The second chariot that has the black horses, this is the power that the Most High gave these spirits of judgment and affliction. And we've covered this before. And the third chariot, white horses, those are horses of protection, right? Salvation, right? Those are spirits of deliverance. Right? White represents purity, holiness. Same chariots and horses that Yahushua is coming with in Revelation, the 19th chapter. And in a fourth chariot, grizzled and bay horses. So those are diverse spirits that here that have a plethora of different responsibilities. Verse number 4. Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, what are these, my Lord? So what are these angels? I mean, what are these horses? And the angel answered and said unto me, these are the 4 spirits of the heavens, which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. So even though it says horses, red horses, those are actually spirits that are in the third heaven that go on the earth. Now, Revelation, the 6th chapter is telling you that. And there went out another horse that was red. That's an actual spirit. That's why you have to go precept upon precept. Now, this spirit is working on the mind of the Edomites and working on them to do what? To bring war, nuclear holocaust, a nuclear disaster, World War III. And power was given to him, right? That sat thereon to take peace from the earth. And peace is about to be taken from the earth, man. Right? Once these bombs start to drop, see, all Esau knows is war, conflict, strife. That's all they know. That's the solution to everything, is war and destruction, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Why? Because Esau, one of his blessings given to him by Isaac, is that by the sword shall he live. So the great sword represents his great warlike technology, tactics, and prowess he has. Right? So there's a spirit on the earth right now. There are spirits working to bring these nations, like NATO nations and Russia, for war. And like we went into in the previous Sabbath service, all things are spiritual before they become carnal. Yes, you're seeing Russia and NATO fight, but there are spirits that are operating, sent from the third heaven to have them fight. It's as simple as that. Let's go to Sirach 39 and 28. Right? Ecclesiasticus, the classic, chapter 39 and 28. Then I want to go back to that article. Right? Sirach chapter 39 and 28. There be spirits created that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. So certain spirits or demons, angels, they're created for the great get back, to reward the wicked for their wickedness that they have done in the land of the living. They serve no other purpose but to pay the wicked back for their sins. In a time of destruction, meaning in a time of war, in a time of famine, in a time of civil wars, they pour out the force that they were given by God. Once they pour out that force, the Heavenly Father's wrath is now is appeased. And his anger is abated because he has executed judgment. Verse 29, fire and hell, famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts, scorpions, and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. So the point I want is the sword. Like in Revelation, the 6th chapter, there was given unto him a great sword. The sword represents war. It represents war, right? Conflict. So going back to this, there are spirits, there are demons on Vladimir Putin. Now, that's not going to be on Al Jazeera. That's not going to be on CNN. You're not going to see the demon on Putin. You're not going to see the demons on Trump. You're not going to see the demons on the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, that are causing them to have this war. Even in Revelation, the 16th chapter, the Most High said there will be spirits, unclean spirits like frogs, working miracles. Let's get that real quick. To gather them for the battle of the great day. Let's go to Revelation, the 16th chapter. Right? So again, all these events are happening on a spiritual level before they become physical. All right? This is Revelation chapter 16 and verse number 13. And I saw 3 unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. So there are demons being issued out by this so-called Babylonian system, if you will. This devil deals with wicked high priests, warlocks, wizards, and actual demons are being sent out via the media, right? Via their world leaders, right? Via propaganda, via sorcery, and all that the West is doing, it's stirring up the nations for World War III. Everything you see going on is all planned. It's all strategic. All of this is to lead the nations into World War III. Let's read on. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. So Revelation chapter 6 and 4, Sirach 39, 28 and 29, and Revelation 16 and 14 all link up. about these spirits of devils, these demons that are working on the kings of the earth to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty, which further proves that before wars play out on a physical level, there are demons working on these leaders and charging them and making them fulfill the will of God by starting wars, right? That's always happened. It's always been like that. So here you have it, right? Let's read this one more time. This is from Axios, right? And there's other sites that you could go into and find this information. And damn near, man, these drones, next thing you know, they could be in Germany. See, Poland, Romania, those are, yeah, they're European nations, but they're not, those are like secondary nations, if you will. Or tier 2 nations, if you can understand. Your tier 1 nations in Europe are England, France, Spain, Germany. Then you got tier 2 nations, Poland, Romania. Then you got tier 3 nations, Luxembourg and small Estonia. Those are smaller nations. So if they are able to do this in Poland, the Most High may put the spirit in them, and now they start pushing into Germany, which is right next to Poland. Then pushing into Belgium, Luxembourg. So the world is waiting, literally as we speak. The world is waiting to see how is NATO going to respond. Is NATO going to push the button and fight back? If NATO pushes the button, there's a very high chance that World War III could start. Very probable if NATO decides to strike back. If they don't strike back, Russia knows that they punked them out and they could keep shooting. And this is all of the Most High. So this thing is getting real, man. Weeks of Russian incursions into NATO skies have pushed the U.S.-led alliance to the brink of an explosive choice: strike or stand down. Why it matters. With peace talks frozen and nuclear threats flying, NATO and Russia are closer to a direct military confrontation than any point since the Cold War. Yeah, I've never seen it like this, man. I've never seen NATO and Russia millimeters away from from causing a global conflict. This is not a proxy war where, Ukraine is the middle ground and America gives Ukraine weapons and Russia, they got, no, this could be an actual war. Not only the Most High know it. See, one of the prophecies says what? You're going to have these wars. You're going to have these rumors of wars. The Lord said these things must come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Let's read this. Mark chapter 13 and 7. And when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. Because even though you're going to have wars and rumors of wars, those rumors are going to turn to actual wars. From hearsay in the media to what if to it is. It's going to go from that. From what if to it is. Right? Verse number 8. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. Right? So these are the beginnings of sorrows, right? Once this thing actually happens. Now, let's finish this. President Trump, long reluctant to confront Moscow, that's the capital of Russia, for brothers that may not know, stunned allies this week by saying he supports shooting down Russian aircraft if the incursions continue. So a lot of these European nations, they say, I don't know about that. See, remember, Daniel 7, I'm going to get it, Most High willing. Daniel 7 says, what about America, the little horn? It says that their look was more stout than their fellows. So they're going to be more wealthy, more proud, more braggadocious, more forward about war. They're a little more stout than Luxembourg, than Italy. They say, hey, look, man, shoot it down, man. Shoot down those Russian aircrafts. They're telling NATO, shoot the Russian aircrafts down. The Kremlin's response, that's your Russian government, was a blunt one. Shoot down a Russian jet and war will follow. Everybody's trying to figure out, literally, while this live is going on, they're trying to figure out, are they going to shoot this Russian jet down and start potentially World War III? Or are they going to just back down, try to find a common ground, find a treaty? Everybody is on the brink of, or the edge of their seat. Politicians, world leaders, congressmen, even these what they call them, these whistleblowers. There's another name I'm looking for. These whistleblowers, alternative media television, they're looking to see what is NATO going to do. Let's read on. The big picture. NATO officials believe Russia is deliberately testing the alliance's defenses and its political will with a wave of escalating provocations, right? So they kind of, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but they give you the timeline, right? They give you the timeline. I'll read maybe these 3 dates, and then, you can kind of read the rest on your own, right? You can read the rest on your own. But I titled this The Last Days of the 10 Toes because these are the last days of the 10 Toes. The 10 Toes is NATO and the EU. You're watching their collapse. You're watching them become divided. And again, NATO is supposed to be the most supreme military faction or organization ever created. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. After I read this, right? September 9th and 10th. Here's what happened. Nearly 24 drones entered Polish airspace, forcing NATO to scramble fighter jets and engage enemy targets in Allied space for the first time in its history. Right? You got them drones coming in. NATO came in and said, well, what the hell are you doing? Get out. You're doing too much. September 13th, a Russian drone lingered nearly an hour over Romanian territory. Then it came into Romania. September 19th, 3 Russian fighter jets flew 12 minutes into Estonian airspace with their transponders off, the most brazen violation yet. On Thursday, U.S. fighter jets intercepted Russian airplanes near Alaska's air defense identification zone for the 9th time this year. They went into Norway. They're in Denmark. I mean, they're all over, man. Right? They're all over. Now, here's what happened. Ukrainian President Zelensky told the Axios show on Wednesday night that the very weak NATO response has encouraged Putin to probe further. Everybody knows that the West is not what it used to be. Here you have Iran. Let's go to Revelation 16, quick precept. You have the kings of the East, they're taking over. Right? And essentially they're punking the West, man. Right? Russia, China, Iran, India, they got Venezuela. They got all these world powers on their side. And they're making, at one time, NATO was the world's global power. And they're making NATO look like some third world country military, man. Revelation chapter 16 and 12. And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon a great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the East might be prepared. So the kings of the East, that's the biblical name. But the political name is your SCO, your Shanghai Corporation Organization, right? That's your main modern day name for the biblical name, Kings of the East, right? Your Shanghai Corporation Organization, right? You have other smaller ones, but that's your main one. You have your RSII Alliance. You have your SCO, Right? Let me pull that up real quick. Right? So you got the SEO. Look at this. SEO Summit in 2025. Beijing's push to reshape global order. So China's pushing, and Russia, they're pushing to take over the world. Right? Let's see this. How many countries are in the SEO? China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Belarus, Russia, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Right? So this is your kings of the East. And their military and their power is on the up and up. And they're challenging the West. The West is nothing like it used to be. Nobody trusts the American military anymore. Nobody, half of their military are sodomites, transformers. Their society is trillions of dollars in debt. You know, their president is incompetent. Their citizens are full of immorality. There's no structure. Their kingdom is fallen. And this is what happened to ancient Rome. Right? All this that we're going into, this happened in ancient Rome. You had powers that came up and he ended up sacking the Roman Empire, right? So the kings of the East, predominantly now, as things are playing out, is your SCO. And the chief kings are Russia, they're in the East, China, they're in the East, and Iran, right? These are your leaders of the East. That's why you just had, let me pull this up. You just had this. Iran and Russia signed a $25 billion agreement to build 4 nuclear power plants. So this is getting real, man. Iran and Russia have a $25 billion nuclear plant deal. So they're building up their missiles, man. Right? They're building up their missiles. Now let's go back to this article real quick. Right? So Zelensky told them, hey, look, NATO didn't respond the way we wanted them to. He said they have to shoot down everything, Zelensky said. Concurring with Trump, if the jets are in your space, you have to block it. Zelensky said that not all NATO leaders were afraid to take such action, but most are. The reason he said is they think Russia is crazy, and they are right. Right? Now, here's what happened. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot told Axios that France believes it's time to discuss strengthening our rules of engagement, but would probably not go as far as shooting a plane. So they're divided, man. Here you have some France, of course, I expect this from France. They say, you know what? Yeah, they all up in our airspace. Yeah, they got weapons all up in our backyard. But, let's just kind of talk about being stronger. Let's not shoot them down, but let's kind of get a little bit stronger. That's an effeminate spirit to have. It's like somebody in your backyard with a damn rifle just walking around. I don't know if I should go out and engage them. Maybe I should just talk about being stronger. Now you're supposed to do something about it, man. If NATO is who we think they are, and they should shoot that plane down. If I was over NATO, I would have them shoot that jet down. I would tell all Western European countries that are in NATO, if you see a Russian drone, if you see a Russian jet, shoot it down. That's the only way. So you got some nations, they said we want to do it. Other nations said we don't want to do it. They're absolutely divided. Right? They're absolutely divided. Right? And you can simply type that in. I believe I typed that in. Right? NATO divided. Look at this. NATO divided on how to respond. Right? And it's Bible prophecy. The beautiful thing about it, it's Bible prophecy about NATO being divided. It's literally in the Bible. They're divided politically, they're divided morally, they're divided in their own legislation and their own laws. They're completely divided on what they're supposed to do. And them being divided, that's good news for us. Because we know that the Most High is true. We know that this is written in the Holy Scriptures. That there will be a time coming where you're going to see that clay. You're going to see that partly strong, partly weak. In the midst of war and the end of the world, that you will see these things. But brothers that don't know, let's go to the book of Daniel. Right? We're going to talk more about NATO being divided. And it's not just with Russia. Right? There are other things on the table that they're divided amongst, man. Right? Let me get this real quick in Obadiah before I go to Daniel. Right? And there's a lot of precepts we're thinking of. Most I will. Right? Salakia. Obadiah, verse number 6. Chapter 1 and 6, right? It reads, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Right? So all of his secrets, all of his things he's kept back from the foundation of the world, his Illuminati, his secret agendas, his identity. Here it is. For years, everybody's thought that he was the Anglo-Saxon. He was the Caucasian. He was the white man. No, he's an Edomite. All of the things that he has tried to hold back and keep secret in the vault, the Most High is searching it up. He's bringing it out. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So all of the allies of America, all these NATO nations, they're going to turn on America, right? At one time, they ate bread. They invited Trump over. They've invited delegates and congressmen. You see pictures all the time. There's an old picture where they have, I believe, during World War II, you have Churchill from England. You have Stalin from Russia. You have FDR from America. And they're all kind of sitting on their thrones, man, eating bread and, being an Edomite. But now they're all turning against one another. Here's the point I want in verse number 8. Shall I not in that day, said the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? So what is the Most High doing? He's taking the wisdom away from NATO, from the West. There's a reason why NATO is cowardice. There's a reason why they can't decide what to do. There's a reason why they're at their wits' end. Do we strike back? Do we not? There's a reason why you have men that are incompetent in office. Trump is incompetent. France's world leader, he got caught doing cocaine. He's allegedly dealing with a man. Germany's leader's incompetent. All of the wise men of Edom, they're nowhere to be found anymore. And everything that these Western European nations are doing leads to moral decay and destruction of their own kingdom. So the Lord did that. He's taking away all their understanding. Nobody fears America anymore. Nobody even wants to come to America anymore. This place is finished. So when you go into the book of Daniel, it prophesies that NATO would be divided. Right? First, let's get Daniel to the 7th chapter. Right? Then we're going to go to Daniel, the 2nd chapter. So this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 7. Right? And we've done breakdowns on this chapter plenty of times. So we're not going to go through the entire chapter. But you read about 4 major kingdoms. You read about the Babylonian kingdom, right? They're the lion with eagle's wings. Then you read about the Medo-Persian Empire, the bear that raised up itself with one side with 3 ribs in the mouth of it. Then you read about the leopard with 4 wings of a fowl and 4 heads. That's the Greek Empire and their top 4 generals, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, Cassander, Seleucus, right? Then you read about the 4th beast. This fourth beast that we're about to read about is also read about in the book of Second Esdras, the 11th and the 12th chapter. It is the only beast in Daniel 7 that is not described as an actual creature or animal. Only do you read about it in detail, like I said, in the Apocrypha and Second Esdras 11 and 12. It's an eagle with 3 heads, 12 feathers, and 8 contrary feathers, right? But in simple terms, it's speaking about the Roman Empire, the Roman Empire. And it goes through the growth of the Roman Empire and their progression ultimately until America is on the scene, right? So let's read this. And it goes into NATO. Daniel 7 and 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So this is your Roman Empire, right? Now these 10 horns, in modern day understanding, they represent your European Union and NATO, right? That's why you have, I think I had a list pulled up, right? 10 means completion, right? Now, originally you had 10 nations that belong to the EU, but since then it has expanded to over 32 countries. NATO is the military arm of the European Union. NATO is the military side, the EU is the political side. NATO has America and NATO has Canada involved. Okay? So that's your North Atlantic Treaty Organization. At present, NATO has 32 member countries. These countries, called NATO allies, are sovereign states that come together through NATO to discuss political and security issues and make collective decisions by consensus. You see that? So these are your NATO countries. The NATO flag in the middle, you see America, Britain, Turkey, right? Was that Denmark, all these different, or Sweden, all these different countries, right? They've all come together. That's the 10 horns. All right, that's your 10 horns. Now, let's go back to Daniel 7, right? Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Right? So out of the Roman Empire, right? Because before you had the NATO and the EU, you had actual 10 provinces, right, of the Roman Empire. When you pull up an ancient Roman Empire on the map, let's pull this up real quick. Right? Roman Empire. We'll do at its height, right? So like you bear with me. Let's do the Roman Empire at its height or peak, which I believe was during the days of Hadrian. Right? So let's pull this up. So when you look at the Roman Empire, right? Bear with me, should be able to see this. Right, here's the Roman Empire at its peak at 117 CE. So everything in the blue are imperial provinces. Everything in the pink are senatorial provinces, and the green are client states. So you see all of your modern day European Union nations are here in front of you. There's nothing different. The only thing that has changed are the boundaries of the countries. When you're looking at, let's look at Spain, right? Spain was formerly called Hispania. Right, let me see if I can pull this up in another. Bear with me. Right? Another name was Tarraconensis. You have Portugal, right, which is Lusitania, right? When you look at France, France is called Gaul, but another name is Aquitania, right? You have Belgium, which is Belgica. You had Germania Inferior and Germania Superior. So you had England or Britain, which is Britannia. These are the different provinces of the Roman Empire, right? These are the different provinces of the Roman Empire. And you can see that Judea, we were a province. We were captured around 65 BC. We were captured by Pompey, right? Nevertheless, the point I want to harp on is when you look at the geographical boundaries of the Roman Empire, it is the exact same thing as NATO. Let's just do a side-by-side comparison, right? Let's just do a side-by-side comparison, right? So check this out. And this map is not including the EU. I mean, not including Slovakia, Canada, and America. So here's the map of NATO. Here's the map of Rome. It's the exact same thing, right? You see the names have changed. That's all. Smaller countries have come together to form larger countries. Here you have Lusitania and Rome. Now you have it being called Portugal. You have former Hispania or Tarraconensis, right? Which was its latter name. Now it's being called what? Spain. Okay. Likewise with all these different countries, right? With all these different countries, you had Dalmatia, right? Then you pull it up on a map. What do you have? You have Croatia, Slovenia. So you see the comparison. So when you go back to Daniel, the 7th chapter, these 10 horns, yes, they're your European Union NATO countries, but in antiquity, they were ancient Roman provinces. And out of these ancient Roman provinces came forth a little horn. The little horn that came forth is America. Let's read this again in Daniel 7 and 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. That little horn is America. America came up out of those 10 horns. When you look at these 10 horns, where did America come from? Well, America came out of Britannia. Historically, they sailed to the so-called New World, and the 13 colonies were British colonies, British provinces, right? Let's pull that up. 13 colonies. So the little horn came up, right? And this is where you had your so-called Revolutionary War. These were your, well, I just want the 13. Right, here's your 13 colonies. These were British provinces. So out of the 10 horns, another little horn came up, which is American. All right. And America took down 3 of the horns. Let's go back to this in Daniel 7. So this is meat. Right now we're going over meat. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Who's that? America. Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by their roots. So 3 horns fell. England fell, and the Revolutionary War. England fell, and the War of 1812. That's one of the horns that fell. You had a second horn that fell. Spain fell. Spain fell in the Spanish-American War. You had a third horn that fell. The third horn that fell was France. France fell in the French-Indian War and the Quasi-War, and they were ultimately bought out during the Louisiana Purchase. America has received the lands that they have because they have fulfilled the prophecy in Daniel chapter 7 and 8. Remember, America was once a divided kingdom from Spain, France, and England. All right. Let's see if I can get that. Spain, France, England, colonies. right? So America, they came into power by taking these three kingdoms down. They took Britain down in a Revolutionary War and later in the War of 1812. They took France down and they got all this land in the French Indian War and the Quasi Wars. And they took Spain down in the Spanish American Wars, right? And they stole this territory from Mexico. This is how America got their land. He took these three horns down. That's what Daniel 7 is talking about, right? And he plucked them up by their roots. So there's no sign. When you're plucked up by your roots, there's no more trace of you being there, right? They were totally wiped out. And then behold, and this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things. So these 10 horns, in an ancient time, they were the Roman Empire. But now these 10 horns are back. And these 10 horns represent your modern day NATO and the EU, right? They represent your modern day NATO and the EU. Let's go to the book of Daniel, the second chapter, right? Let's go to Daniel chapter 2 and 36, right? Daniel chapter 2. I mean, this whole chapter. I'm not, you know what? We're going to read, because this could be a refresher for brothers. We're going to read 31, right? We're going to go through this very quickly, right? This may be new for certain brothers breaking this statue down, his dream he saw, but it may be a refresher as well. Nebuchadnezzar, who is the king, Nebuchadnezzar II, who is the king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, had a dream. And his dream, he saw 4 major kingdoms that would be in power. And they were described in a particular fashion to describe their strength politically and their strength on a military level, right? He described that and he broke it down. Now, this is Daniel 2 and 31. Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. Here's what he saw, or here's a depiction of what he would have saw. Here's a statue in Daniel, the second chapter. Like I said, I want to get one without any dates or anything. Right? I see. I guess this will suffice. Right? This will suffice. You know what? Let's get another one because I don't like that sword they got him holding. There's no account of him holding a sword. Right? All right, let's see this one. Still got him with a sword, but that's right. We'll deal with it. So here's what he saw. Right? Here's essentially what Daniel saw. He saw the statue, and it represents 4 major kingdoms. All right? Now, let's break this down. And we're going to read this all the way till we get to the time of the 10 toes, because that's the part we want to get to, the 10 toes. That's the time you're living in now, the 10 toes being divided. Daniel 2 and 31. Nebuchadnezzar saw this dream of this statue. Daniel the prophet is going to break it down. Daniel 2 and 32. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest to that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Thus was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces altogether, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. So what did he see? Again, he saw this statue. He saw a head of fine gold, right? Daniel 2 and 32 again. This image's head was of fine gold. The fine gold represents the Neo-Babylonian Empire. That's what this, let me pull this over here, make it easier. That's what this represents. This head of gold represents the Babylonian Empire. Why is it gold? Because gold is the most valuable metal. Most valuable metal out of all these metals, out of silver, out of brass, and out of iron, and out of clay. There's nothing more valuable than gold. What does that mean? It means that Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom and the strength of his government and his sovereignty that he had was compared to gold. Nobody gainsaid Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was treated as a god. He was looked at as a god. Therefore, his kingdom is likened unto gold, right? They actually called Nebuchadnezzar a god, right? I didn't plan on going too far into this, so let me see if I could pull these out real quick, right? This is, here it is. This is what I want. This, Judith chapter 3 and 8, just to prove that very quickly, right? Judith 3 and 8. Yet he did cast down their frontiers and cut down their groves, for he had decreed to destroy all the gods of the land, that all nations should worship Nebuchadnezzar only, and that all tongues and tribes should call upon him as God. So his government was so strong, they served him as if they served the Most High God. That's Nebuchadnezzar. So his kingdom is likened unto gold. Now, going back to the statue, there's another thing about gold. Although gold is the most valuable metal, gold is also the weakest metal out of all these metals. Gold is weaker than silver. It's more malleable than silver. It's softer than silver. Gold is weaker than brass. Gold is weaker than iron. So when you go down this statue, you're beginning to notice certain things. You're beginning to notice that the strength of the government loses value, but the strength of the government from a military level increases. All right, I'm going to say that again. The strength of the government loses value in its government, but its military level and strength increases. So that you have this head of gold, but what happened to the Babylonians? They were defeated by the Medes and the Persians, chiefly the Persians. That's why the Medes and the Persians, they represent the arms and the chest of silver. Why? Because silver is stronger than gold. Everybody knows that. Silver is a stronger metal than gold. Is silver as valuable as gold? No, because the government of the Medes and the Persians was weaker than the government of the Babylonians. So when you go down this kingdom, there's another, when you go down this statue, there's a third thing that must be understood. The first two, I'll repeat it again. The government value gets weaker and weaker as you go down. The strength of the government gets stronger as you go down. The third thing that brothers must understand when understanding this vision is that the kingdoms get divided the same way your body gets divided as you go from head to toe. There's no division in your head. Everything's there. But your arms and your chest, they're divided from each other. So that division represents the weakness of that kingdom. So the Medes and the Persians were weaker than the Babylonians. Why? Because the Medes and the Persians were a joint empire. They were two empires ruling together. They were not like the Babylonians. Nobody looked at Cyrus as God the way they looked at Nebuchadnezzar. You had men that actually checked the Persian kings. They told the king, you can't change any damn laws. Who do you think you are? They told him that. It said, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which altereth not. You better not reverse that writing. Hey, they told him that, man. Let me get that real quick. They was checking kings, man. Right? So their government got weaker. There's no way they would check Nebuchadnezzar. This is Daniel chapter 6 and 15. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king establisheth may be changed. So they told the king, watch your damn self, man. You trying to alter the law? Do it if you want to. So they was checking this. They was checking the king, man. That's why the government got weaker. And another thing about the Persian Empire that made it weak is the Persian Empire was a tolerant empire. They allowed everybody, even the Jews, to serve their own God. Cyrus actually, when you go through the history, he actually helped rebuild a lot of the temples to these damn nations. So they got weak. Let's move on. Then you have the thighs and belly of brass. So brass is less valuable than silver because the Greek Empire, that's the Greeks, their government was way weaker than the Medes and the Persians. Their government was comprised of city-states, and their number one philosophy was democracy, where power was taken out of a king and it was given to the hands of the people who decided who should be in power. That's not in the scriptures. So the so-called white man went completely against the grain. That's where their government is not gold, it's damn sure not silver. The Most High said the Greek Empire is so weak, it's likened unto brass. You have 4 major kings that ruled and they were all fighting each other. Ptolemy and his lineage against Seleucus and his lineage, you had 6 Syrian wars. Castor, Lysimachus, Perdiccas, Hystiapes, all these different men, they were fighting amongst each other. But even though they were weak, brass is stronger than silver because the Greeks defeated the Persians at the Battle of Gaugamela. Right? Let's get a quick precept let's go to Daniel 11. Right? I just want to go through the statute very quickly. Daniel chapter 11 and verse number 4. And when he shall stand up, this Alexander the Greek, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided, see that, toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. So his kingdom was divided into 4 major rulers. That's what you call a diadochi. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, Cassander. You had other generals, Antigonus and these different men, but the 4 major generals is who I just named. And his kingdom was divided, man. That was a civil war. That's why they're likened unto thighs and belly of brass. Then you get down to the legs of iron. Iron is stronger than brass. The Roman Republic defeated the Greek Empire in the Roman Macedonian Wars, chiefly at the Battle of Corinth around 146 BC. The Roman Republic took them down, and the Roman Republic became the sole ruler in that region. So iron is stronger than brass, as much as the Roman military was stronger than the Greek military. Iron is inferior to brass in value because the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire government was so divided. Again, when you go down the body, the head is 1 unit. The arms and the chest of silver are essentially 2 units. Your thigh and your 2 thighs and your belly is 3 units. So it gets divided. Then your legs of iron, it gets more divided. And then you get all the way down to the 10 toes. Your toes aren't divided, right? They're literally divided and there are 2 separate legs, man. So you can't make this up. The anatomy of their statue also dictates the strength of their government. So the Roman Republic was extremely weak. They had councils, they had plebeians, they had patricians, they had all this madness going on, right? Let's pull up the Roman Republic. I like this statue right there, right? Let's pull up the Roman. And the Lord said, be not ignorant in anything, and a great matter or a small, right? So this is going to help you understand prophecy. History, biblical history, helps you understand biblical prophecy. So here's how divided their kingdom was. They didn't have a sole king. They had 2 Roman consuls, 8 Roman praetors, right? 16 aediles, 20 quaestors, 10 tribunes. Then they had ordinary people and slaves. You know, they had a senate of 300 men. You read about that in the book of 1 Maccabees, the 8th chapter. So you had all this madness going on. Complete division. And crazy, this is madness. How do you rule a government? You got 300 men. That's why America's falling apart. You got 300 men who are sitting there talking every damn day. That's confusion. That's too many hands in the pot. You can't have too many hands in the pot. Everybody knows that. You start messing with the flavor. The way that our government was set up, our theocracy was set up by Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. You had a king. You had King Saul. You had King David. You had King Rehoboam. You had a king. And a king passed it on to his son. And that was it. Yeah, you had different offices. You had a scribe. You had the captain of the host. It was very simple. One thing about the Most High, what he does is very simple and is very wise at the same time. You had a man over the household. You had a recorder. You had a king counselor. It was very simple and it was perfect. Because the king serves the Most High. The further you get away from the Most High, this when you get division like this. I mean, this is ridiculous, man. Councils, they manage the army and the affairs. And look at this. They could veto each other. What sense does that make? You got 2 councils, 2 men running, and they could veto each other. That's what the Most High said, that kingdom, that's madness. I'm going to call that iron. And then you have the 10 toes, which are partly iron and part clay. In the year 2025 AD, you're living in the days of the 10 toes. Let's go back to Daniel, the 2nd chapter, right? Daniel chapter 2. So hopefully brothers understand now, right? Let's go back to Daniel chapter 2, right? We're talking about the 10 toes. Daniel chapter 2 and verse number 42. Actually, we'll start at 40. Daniel 2 and 40. And the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron. That's the Roman Empire. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise, because the Roman Empire took all these nations down. Verse 41. Here's the point. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there should be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. So you're living in the days of the feet and the toes. How many toes do you have? You got 10 of them. These are your 10 horns. The 10 toes and the 10 horns are the exact same thing. The 10 toes and the 10 horns are the exact same thing. That's your NATO and the EU. They're part of clay and part of iron. Why are they part of iron? Because they are the Roman Empire back on the earth again. I showed you that already when I showed you the maps. And they have that military might. They have nuclear weapons. They have organization. They have a chief navy. They have strong military technology. So they are strong in iron. Military-wise, yes, they are strong. They're still one of the more formidable military mights on the earth when they all come together. But they're also part clay. If gold is the most valuable government, silver is kind of valuable, brass is you're divided, iron is weak. What could clay represent? Clay represents the very weak nature of NATO and the EU, their organization and their structure. Let's pull up NATO again. So they are clay. For anybody that believes in the Most High God, how can you trust in America and their allies when God called them the weakest government that he ever made? That's what he said. He said this government is even weaker than the Babylonian government. So much so, he's going to liken them unto clay. There's no value in clay. I've never, there's even value in iron. People can mine iron and, make weapons and make things. There's no value in clay. Let's pull up a map of NATO again. I want a full map, right? So check it. Check this, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemiah Shah. Here's a map of NATO. Why is NATO likened unto? Let's open this up again. I know I got a lot of tabs. Why is it clay? Well, first of all of these countries, yes, they're NATO, they're organized, but they all have their different laws. If you go to Spain, the laws are different than that of France. The language is different in Spain than it is at France. Even the language is divided. Like you say, well, they all come together, they speak English, but naturally the language is divided. Their political philosophy makes them divided. They have different leaders. They have different laws. They have different beliefs. They got pounds. They got francs, right? They got different currencies that's still relevant to a degree. They are completely divided. When they should go to war, when they shouldn't go to war. And they're separate by the damn ocean. So you got Canada and you got America, and they all try to come together and agree. This is the weakest government of all time. They're likened unto clay. That's what these toes represent. They're kings. Very weak kings who cannot run the earth. Let's go to Revelation chapter 16. It's like in Revelation 17. Right? Quick precept. And they are divided, man. Right? They're weak and they're divided. Revelation chapter 17 and verse number 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So they're going to rule a short time, right? With America. Verse number 13. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So all of the European nations, that's what we have, their different articles that bring them together. Article 4, Article 5, all these articles and their laws collectively bring them together. So they have one mind, but now they're divided. They're divided as we speak, right? Where'd I have it at? NATO divided on how to respond to repeated Russian incursions. Should we fight or should we put our tail between our legs? Should we strike them down or should we kind of hide in the corner? They're all divided on what to do because the Lord said they would be divided. right? Let's read this again. Daniel 2:41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. NATO divided. You can't make how is the Bible? People, the white man wrote that. What white man wrote this? What white man did it? And I like to ask that. I love to ask that question. For people to say the white man wrote the Bible. What white man? When you read the Bible, it's beyond impossible for an Edomite to write the things that are written in the Bible when you really read it and understand it. You think he's going to write down how 4 kingdoms are going to rule and break it down and use analogies and parables, man? You're going to give that much credit to Esau? The Negroes that says that he must love the so-called white man and look at him like he's the wisest, most intelligent man that ever lived, to give him credit to write these prophecies down, these dark sayings and breakdowns. This is how you know the Bible is real. Because what you're seeing in the world right now, as we speak, was written thousands of years ago about the kingdom being divided. We got articles and information pulled up showing that the kingdom is being divided in real time. Right before World War III, the kingdom should be divided, but there should be in it of the strength of the iron. So they have that military might, they have nuclear weapons, they have the strength of the Roman Empire. For as much as thou sawest, iron mixed with miry clay. So they have military might mixed with a weak government. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Right? They are partly strong. When you see these NATO military drills, right? Let's see if NATO joint, let's see, military exercise, right? When you watch that footage, man, and you see them videos about how they're launching their missiles, how they got their tanks, and you don't really want to mess with them. They're partly strong, They could take down a lot of kingdoms, man. If they decided to, they could take down many kingdoms. But they're also partly weak. And they're partly broken. Verse number 43, Daniel 2:43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. See, iron don't mix with clay. Go get actual iron, get clay, mold it together, and see if it sticks. It's not going to happen. You cannot be successful with a partly strong military and a partly weak government. It's not going to work. They're going to try to cleave and work things out and stick together and unify, but they won't work it out. It'll never happen. NATO's going to fall, right? These kings are going to fall. And eventually, they're going to boot America out. Because America, like I always say, America is that bold fellow that you travel with who always gets you into trouble, man. It's always that one guy that's always getting the rest of the crew jammed up. Always got them in a fight, always got them in jail, always got them having to, explain themselves on why things went bad. He always getting drunk. He always want to do God knows what, man. That's how America is. They're always getting the rest of the European nations, the Western European nations, into trouble, into fights that they don't want to fight. Right? So let's read a little of this. NATO divided on how to respond to repeated Russian incursions. This from Thursday, this yesterday. Right? This is yesterday. And we're waiting to see what happens, man. Right? I know I am. I'm waiting to see what is going to happen. So I'm going to read a little of this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. NATO allies are divided. So that's those 10 toes. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Paraphrasing. NATO allies are divided over whether the alliance should make it a policy to shoot down Russian jets that violate NATO's airspace, with some countries, including the United States, Poland, and Baltic nations, signaling that future violations should be met with force, while others, including Germany, urge more restraint. This is madness, man. They can't even agree on how to handle their enemy, man. They can't even agree. They can't even get this thing together. Should we go to war? Should we not? It's America's fault. No, it's not America. We need America. No, they always get us in war, but they have power. Germany said, no, we're not going to war. America said, well, we're going to go to war. Shoot them down. Poland said, shoot them down. France, Germany said, no, let's think about it. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 49. This kingdom is finished. It's finished. There's no way that they're going to be able to survive a global war if they can even decide how to deal with Russia. What happens when China comes on the scene? What happens when Iran is on the scene? They don't even know what to do now. How are they going to handle Yahweh Shah? If they don't know what to do with man, how are they going to handle our Lord who made man? How are they going to handle our Lord who made man and put the spirit in him? Right? It's not going to work. Right? It's not going to work. Let's go to Jeremiah 49. Right? Let's go to Jeremiah 49, and I want verse 7. And this never would have happened, man, in the 50s, the 60s. You know? Jeremiah 49 and 7. Concerning Edom, thus said the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? And you got to ask yourself, man. They don't know what to do. They don't have any more counsels. Y'all are divided. Surely y'all can build, y'all, when you look at France, England, the United States, surely that's enough nuclear weapons. See, the Most High got a spirit of fear on the West, man. To show you how weak this society is. If there was ever a moment where the Negro or the Hispanic or Native American trusted in America and their military to save you, it damn sure shouldn't be now. They're divided on what to do. Here it is. We're being unified by the Most High. See, the Most High is bringing us together and he's dividing them. Now think about this. All of these Edomites came together to do what? To divide us. And now they're being divided. All of their European Union meetings, their summits, right? The United Nations, all of their meetings, all these world Edomites came into the earth and divided the earth and colonized the earth and took countries and resources and, molested children and chopped off noses and arms. And had done experiments and lewd things to the other nations, chiefly the Israelites. And they divided up the earth. There's political cartoons that show that. Now look at the judgment. Now they're divided. The Most High said, be not deceived. God is not mocked, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. Let's get that in Galatians 6 real quick now. So where's your wisdom at now, Esau? Right? You just spent billions of dollars and hundreds of years dividing up the Israelites, putting the light skin against the dark skin, putting the old against the young, West Coast against the East Coast. Right? This gang against this gang. You created these gangs. Your CIA, You know, your FBI, you done started gangs, you done infiltrated at COINTELPRO, you caused division in the Black Panthers Party, you got agents, you got spies. All you did was cause division in the hearts and whatever organization the Israelites had. Whatever we tried to put together, you came in and you divided it. Esau is a mastermind of causing division, like any devil would. Any serpent is good at causing division and sowing discord. But look how the Most High is doing Esau. He's breaking them up and they're being divided. Galatians 6 and 7, I quoted it. We're going to read it. Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Right? That shall he also reap. You sow division on the earth, you're reaping division on the earth. Let's go to the book of, I had a precept in mind. Lord willing, it comes back. But you sow division on the earth, you're going to reap it. Right? And meanwhile, let's go to Colossians. Right? Actually, I went to Ecclesiastes. Right? I'll praise to the Most High. This is Ecclesiastes, chapter 10, and verse number 8. He that diggeth the pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh the hedge, a serpent shall bite him. You don't dig the pit. You didn't use the media, propaganda, all this wickedness to cause all of the Israelites to hate each other. You have wars going on right now because you decided to put this gang against this gang, to put drugs in the community. You didn't put all of these guns. I mean, it's devil, man. I mean, when you really think about it and analyze it, he has to go. He has created an environment where you lack the essentials to survive. I'll just leave it at that. Where crime becomes prevalent, where poverty is prevalent. We are constricted and limited in resources, finances, unity, help, aid from anybody. Then he put crack, heroin, right? I mean, he just spent decade after decade with a new drug. Heroin in the 60s and the 70s, the crack epidemic in the 80s, man. In the 90s, Navy J getting high, freaking off. He dropping guns off to kill so Jay could kill each other with switches and AR-15s. He put music, the rap industry was used for division. What they call that? Not a damn gangster rap. That was used for division. To further enhance your eye being evil towards your brother. He used music for division. He used television for division. A Negro killing a Negro over sports, man. Who's better, LeBron James and Michael Jordan? They'll shoot each other over that, man. You done digged all this pit, man, to have your brother hate you. Half of these Negroes don't even know why they hate each other. Right? They don't even know why they hate each other. You done dug a pit, man. He that diggeth the pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh in the hedge, a serpent shall bite him. See, the hedge is the protection that the Most High gave us. You broke that by causing the Israelites to sin through your wickedness and through your philosophies and your crafty counsel. You broke the hedge. The Lord said, where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. And we've been robbed and spoiled because you broke the hedge by causing us to sin. And now you're getting bit by Yahweh Shemiah. And that poison from that serpent is creeping from America into England and to France and to Germany. And you're slowly being broken down, right? Slowly being consumed. Verse 9, Ecclesiastes 10 and 9. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt therewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. Yeah, where the stones, man? Right? You didn't remove the stones. You didn't divided the stones. They were originally together, but you removed the stones. Through government policies, the media, and other wild propaganda that you've used and policies. So now you're going to be hurt by the stones. Think about that. If there's a wall full of stones, and you say, you know what, I'm going to start removing the stones. Hey, all them stones are falling on you. You're going to get crushed. Stop removing stones, or you're going to get crushed by the stones. You want to start cleaving wood, right? I'm going to chop all of the trees down. And where the wood? Where the trees? Where the forests of the south? Where the servants of the Most High? You want to cleave the wood, and a damn wood splinter come back and get you in the damn eye, man. It happens all the time. The tree will fall on you. I've seen plenty of videos, people cleaving wood, and the damn tree will fall on them. The Lord said, whether the tree falleth, there it shall be, paraphrasing. You know? So you reap what you sow in the earth. That's the point of the matter. Right? You reap what you sow in the earth. Let's go to Job 18. Right? I'm going to get a little more. I'm going to get some more in that article. Right? This is Job chapter 18 and verse number 7. I'm going to start at 5. Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and a spark of his fire shall not shine. And his light is put out. I mean, look at it. Look at these Edomites. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. Right? They have no idea what to do. Your light is gone. Right? Your wisdom is vanished. The Roman Empire is collapsing. And these other nations that you oppressed, they're rising up against you. China, they don't fear you anymore, man. You're a joke to China. You're a joke to Russia. Literally, America is a joke to every other nation and every other people outside of the American. The only people who think America is a first world country are the people in America. Everybody else knows America is a third world country with no education, no infrastructure, incompetency in leadership, crime. And I know it's a damn heathen at my plantation. They said they didn't even want to come to America anymore. They said nobody wants to come to America anymore. I said, why, man? They said we might get shot. That's what they said, man. We might get shot. Everybody has guns and they kill each other in America. Hold on, that's not how the nations perceived America in the 1930s. In the 1910s. Now the nations are saying, I don't want to go to America. I might get shot. Let's read on. Right? So this is back in this article. The issue came to a head during an emergency meeting of the North Atlantic Council on Tuesday. This is past Tuesday, which was called by Estonia after 3 Russian fighter jets violated Estonian airspace last week for 12 minutes. So this thing is heating up. Hey, Russia said we're gonna keep testing you. Hey, Russia's like a nigger, man. You know, them Negroes who keep testing you, man, make you want to fight. Everybody knows them like that, man. Dudes like that. They keep testing you. Hey, Russia's act like a Negro, man. You know? Hey, putting all the jets all in their airspace. Do something. They saying do something about it. Hey, you got people like that. They just want to fight, man. Some people just want to fight. They like to fight. And Russia really, they punking you, man. There's other words that, we can use. More colorful words. But they punking America, man. They look like some punks, man. They had them fighter jets flying all down and swooping over the people, and it's going up and they flying through the shopping malls and knocking over baby strollers, and they're trying to figure, well, what do we do? Let's read a little bit more. Representatives from several countries, including Poland and Estonia, wanted the joint statement following the meeting to make clear that any additional violations by Russia, including from manned aircraft, would be met with force. I want to see it. I want to see it, man. Because if they meet Russia with force, it can very well, I'm not saying it will, but it's a very, very, very likely chance that this could be the beginning of literal World War III. It's very likely. Again, we're going to wait and see. We're going to watch. But if they shoot down a Russian jet and then Russia responds, Poland might declare war on Russia. Article 4 is going to happen. They're going to meet. And it can escalate to Article 5, where NATO declares war on Russia. You might see that in the news. NATO officially declares war on Russia. Or Russia declares war on NATO. Then China's going to get pulled in. So they said it'll be met with force. According to two NATO officials familiar with the discussions, something that NATO has the authority to do if necessary. Look at them. They're all in there trying to figure out what to do. Look at Poland. Look at Estonia. Right? They're all trying to figure out what to do. You know? Let's read on a little bit more. It says, NATO and allies will employ, in accordance with international law, all necessary military and non-military tools to defend ourselves and deter all threats from all directions. We will continue to respond in the manner, timing, and domain of our choosing, it said. So basically, we don't want no smoke. Right? That's essentially what they said, because they could have came out and said we're going to shoot them down. Right? They could have came out and said that. Right? So they're divided. Right? They are divided. Let's see if this is another thing I had. Yep. 14 hours ago, NATO is escalating the situation, and there's possibility of direct war between Russia and NATO. If there's threat to Russian sovereignty and existence, I guarantee you nothing will remain on planet Earth. You see that? Nothing will remain on planet Earth. And this is further reason why the so-called white man can't be in power. He's willing to wipe out all man. He's willing to wipe his own damn self out. All the so-called white man knows is war. That's all he knows. It's fights and wars. If you had two Edomites on an island, two Edomite men, they were the only two people on the earth, they'll find a way to kill each other. They'll conjure up a reason in their mind why they have to kill that other Edomite. He's too tall. He's too short. He speaks English. I speak French. He has red eyes or green eyes. I got blue eyes. And they'll find a way, man, to kill each other. These Edomites, they look for a reason to kill each other. That's why we need to run the earth, man. The Most High is going to put the elect back in power. Because all this devil knows is destruction. This is all he knows. Talking about that, there will be nothing remaining on the earth. That's madness. That's madness. Right? It's from the 23rd. Mysterious drones deemed large and expertly flown through Scandinavia's aviation hubs into disarray. So they got these drones and they don't know what to do. Should we shoot them down? Should we fight? So they're on edge, right? They are on edge, right? They are on edge. Divided we stand, examining the European Union's ability to withstand external wedging. And again, ultimately, they're going to fight amongst each other and ultimately fight against America, right? Let's go to we're going to get a few more. Let's go to second Esdras. See where I'm at with time. Okay, making very good time. We're going to get a little bit, then a few more, right? Now, what you're going to see play out is America being the proudest of the Edomite nations. They're going to essentially drag NATO into a war that they don't want to go in. Now, you heard about Poland and Estonia. They said shoot them down. They're ultimately following America, right? Because Trump said what? Let me pull this up before I get this precept, right? Let me pull this up. Trump, shoot down Russian drones. Let me pull this up because he came out and said that. See that? Right? He said, Trump says NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircrafts. So he wants war. Right? He wants war. World War III on the horizon. Trump calls to shoot down Russian drones. Shoot them down. Now, believe it or not, a lot of these NATO countries, they don't want war. Right? They don't want war. You know? So ultimately, America, they're that horn that's more stout than their fellows. Let's get that in Daniel 7. And they're going to do actions that are going to provoke the rest of the European nations into wanting to separate from them and divide from them. Right? So this is Daniel chapter 7. And actually, let's see, Salakia. Daniel 7 and 20. Here's what I want. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell. You'll be read about America coming up and taking down England, Spain, and France. Those are the 3 that fell. Even if that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. So this horn, America, they're more stout. They're more puffed up, right? They're more wealthy. They have more military might, and they're more stout than his fellows. And what America's doing is America, and what they've always been doing, is they're the leaders of NATO. Now you can say, well, hold on. I didn't know there was a leader. I said that there was 32 member countries and they're all treated the same. No, America calls the shots. America is the backbone of NATO. America told them, boost up your military spending or we won't protect you anymore. Don't you know NATO started to boost up their their military spending? They listen and they say, you know what? If we want protection from America, we're going to amp up our military spending. So America's look is a little bit more stout. They have a little bit more say-so in the world of NATO. But what does the prophecy ultimately say? Let's go to Revelation chapter 17. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 17. Right? And this goes into those toes being divided. Revelation chapter 17 and verse number 16. And the 10 horns, which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. So hold on. We're the only ones on the earth. See, we know more than what these whistleblowers know. We know what's going to happen. Right? Here people are wondering, is NATO going to, what's going to happen. The division of NATO and of the 10 horns being divided is going to be the reason why America is destroyed. I'm going to say that again. NATO being divided is the reason and the cause of America being destroyed. Because right now, NATO's divided on how to respond to Russia. But one thing NATO really isn't divided on, that they all can agree on, is who's the troublemaker. And they can easily identify that America is the troublemaker. America is responsible for single-handedly starting global wars. And they're beginning to hate the whore. See, a lot of these European nations, they're recognizing Palestine as a state right now. Let's see if I can find that. EU nations recognizing Palestine. Right? See if I can find that. Now check this out. This is EU news. Right? France and 4 other EU. I always want you to do something. France and 4 other European Union countries ready. States that recognize Palestine. Right? The United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and Portugal have formally announced recognition. France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Malta, Liechtenstein, and New Zealand will also do so at the United Nations General Assembly. Netanyahu rewarding terrorism will not happen. So they're also divided because America, they're sending billions of dollars to the state of Israel to wage war, not really war, to commit a genocide on these so-called Palestinians. These other EU countries said, we're not getting down with America on that, man. Right? We don't get down with America on that. Because if they are able to destroy the Palestinians, they're going to wage war against other countries in that region, against Iran, against those Arab nations. And that's ultimately going to pull NATO countries into a war. Because if America is backing up Israel and Israel gets pulled into a war, America is going to help Israel. If America helps Israel in a war, pursuant to Article 5, all other NATO countries are going to get pulled into that war. These other European countries, they don't want war. So these are other reasons on why these toes are divided. Right? These are other reasons why the toes are divided. And that's why Revelation chapter 17 and 16 says what it says. I'm going to go back to that article, but it reads, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The whore is America, who commits all manner of spiritual fornication, right, with the other nations, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, right, via the missiles. For the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So the Lord is putting a spirit on the EU to separate from America. And they're going to hate America for pulling them into wars and conflicts that they don't want to be involved in. Right? That's why I read that in Obadiah. Let's go back to Jeremiah 49. Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse number 7. Concerning Edom, thus said the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more to mine? Its counsel perished from the prudent. Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. Right? So the Most High is going to bring his destruction upon him. And you see it playing out now. Right? You see it playing out now. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 19. Right, first, Slaki, let's go to 2nd Ezra 6. This is what I want. This second Ezra chapter 6 and verse number 24. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. So these are the days where friends are going to start fighting one against another like enemies, man. England and America were at one time the greatest allies. France and America, very great allies. Spain and America, very great allies. They used to have great partnerships and relationships, man. NATO used to be a prominent force that was unified. But now we're beginning to see that they're going to start fighting one against another like enemies. And this links up with Revelation, the 17th chapter, that they're going to hate the whore and eat her flesh and make her desolate and naked and burn her with fire. Let's go to 2nd Ezra, the 5th chapter. Right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 5. Here's what else the Most High said. 2nd Ezra, chapter 5 and verse number 8. There shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. So you have confusion also in many places, right? You have an entire military organization confused on what to do, how to respond. They don't even know who's on their side. And the Most High said the war, the fire is going to be often sent out. Wild beasts are changing their places, and menstruous women are bringing forth monsters. You have massive shootings. You have serial killers, man. You have school shootings. You have YNs. You got madness on the earth. You have complete moral decay amongst this generation that are brought forth by these menstruous women. It says, and salt water shall be found in the sweet. That's confusion. And natural barriers are being blended and crossed. That's what it means. Salt water shall be found in the sweet. That links back up to confusion. And all friends shall destroy one another. So that's the same thing as 2nd Ezra 6, that friends shall fight one against another like enemies. In the 5th chapter, it says, salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Right? And we're waiting for this to happen, man. Right? All these allies are beginning to slowly turn against one another through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. And like I said, that's judgment. Because they didn't cause us to destroy one another. And now the Most High is putting the spirit on them to slowly tear each other apart and destroy one another. Let's go to Isaiah, the 19th chapter. Right? This Isaiah chapter 19 and verse number 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. So these Egyptians are spiritual Egyptians. The Most High told us that our dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So these Egyptians in Isaiah 19 and 2 are speaking about the Edomites that run this kingdom. And the Most High is going to put Esau against Esau, friends against friends, NATO divided, even Edomites against Edomites. These Russians are Edomites. The people in Poland are Edomites. And they're going to fight everyone against his brother. Remember, Esau had different sons too. Right? Let's get that in Genesis 36. Right? Let's get that. Just like Jacob's sons sold their brother and had animosity, Esau's sons are fighting each other. Right? This Genesis chapter 36 and verse number 9. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau. Reuel, the son of Bashemath, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. So all these sons are fighting. The sons of Eliphaz and the sons of Reuel. All these dukes. Let's jump down to verse number 15. These were the dukes of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, Duke Taman, Duke Omar, Duke Zepho, Duke Kenaz, Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, Duke Amalek. See that? That's Netanyahu and these Amalekites. They're Duke Amalek, the Rothschilds. That's Duke Amalek. All these different Edomites, they come from different dukes. Macron, he comes from a duke. Trump, he comes from a duke. Netanyahu, they come from a duke. They come from one of these sons. So Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, Duke Amalek, these are the dukes that came of Eliphaz and the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah. So you can read about all these dukes, right? Pull up the etymology of a duke. So all these European nations, man, they come from one of these sons, right? Here's the word duke. It reads a sovereign prince, leader, commander, governor of a province. It means to lead. Hereditary nobleman of the highest rank. Also used to translate various European titles. Right? You see that? European titles. So all these NATO countries that are fighting, these are different men that came out of the Dukes of Edom. So they are brothers. They are brothers, man. The people of Russia are brothers to the people of Germany. The people of France are brothers to the people of America. They're all. This is white on white crime has killed more people than black on black crime. I don't want to hear an Edomite say any damn thing about black on black crime when they killed millions in the Civil War, millions in World War I, millions and millions in World War II. They've killed, the Negro hasn't killed the million Negroes. They've killed millions of each other. They gotta go, man. Right? So this is what Isaiah said. Isaiah 19:2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. Those are these different dukes fighting one another. And they shall fight everyone against his brother, right? The dukes of Gatam, the dukes of Kenaz, the dukes of Amalek. All of these dukes, they're back on the earth. These rich aristocracies, shadow governments, they're all fighting against another. The Russian is an Edomite. The Polish man is an Edomite, and they're fighting one against his brother. And everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, right? And kingdom against kingdom, right? You can't get around it through the spirit and power of Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. Right? Let's go to the classic, Matthew chapter 12. And I want to get the rest of these articles. So again, we're watching, man. Brothers should be watching and seeing what's going to happen. And what are we praying for? Well, you know what we're praying for, man. You know what we're praying for. We're praying that they shoot down a Russian jet. That's what we want. Now, anything can happen. The Most High could do what he want to do. But we are praying fervently that Yahweh Ba'ashmi Shai puts a spirit on NATO to shoot down as many jets as they can in one day. That's all we want. We want Russian jets shot down by NATO. If Russia, which I believe, if they're not all talk, I don't believe they're all talk. If they say what they meant, then they mean what they say. They say it's war. I believe he said that. He said if let me see if I can find that. I think I pulled it up earlier. Right? Let me see if I can pull this up. Right? Putin. Let's see. We'll just type this in. Shot jets, war, NATO. I'm winging it, right? But let's see. He pretty much said that, man. Right? Europeans privately tell Russia they're ready to shoot down jets. Kremlin says warning on Russian jets and escalation. Right? So this thing is getting real. Right? Let's play a little of this clip right here. Right? We're going to play a little of this clip because I want to see what they actually said. I didn't watch this one. Right? But I want to see what they actually said. So again, we're praying for the destruction of our enemies, man. It'll be beautiful. How beautiful would it be through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Awashad to go into the Day of Atonement, to go into the Feast of Tabernacles, and massive war is kicking off. Right? These Edomites, man. Right? So let's play a little of this clip. This is fair use. Right? Fair use. Don't even. Russia warns NATO on threat to shoot down planes. Fair use. Never play the whole thing. Damn, they got this thing could kick off, man. Lord willing. Check this out. It says we got 4 women right there. Well, what, is this 5? Right? NATO is done. They're done. NATO is done. The militaries of NATO nations cannot keep shooting down Russian drones, intruding into their airspace with expensive missiles. Mark Rutte, the alliance chief, has said. And you can watch the rest on your own. Right? So essentially, man, this thing is getting real.
Ну, вы знаете, об этом даже не хочется говорить. Это очень безответственное заявление. Очень безответственное, потому что обвинение России в том, что ее военные самолеты нарушали что-то воздушное пространство и вторгались в что-то небо. Они беспочвенные. Сколь-либо убедительных доказательств этому представлено не было. Мы настаиваем на том, что все наши полеты, военные самолеты осуществляют в строгом соответствии с международными правилами.
So he came out and said it never happened. Right? He just said that never happened. Right? So you see what's going on. You see what's going on. You got Russia and you have NATO, right? And they're beefing. And what's going to happen? Let's go to Revelation, the 13th chapter. If you want to know what's going to happen, let's go to Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Awashad. The Lord laid it all out in Revelation, the 13th chapter. This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse number 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So we're reading about the Roman Empire, right? Now, modern day NATO and the EU, that's this beast. And it has 7 heads and 10 horns, right? The 7 heads are the 7 major kingdoms, right, that make up NATO and the EU, right? Really the ancient Roman Empire, right? Greece and Rome and Spain and France and Germany and Russia and Great Britain. And we discussed the 10 horns already. Again, your 10 horns are the same as the 10 toes. We read in Revelation 17 that the 10 horns are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power 1 hour with the beast. So those are your 10 horns. And upon his horns, 10 crowns. Why do you have 10 crowns upon him? Because these are 10 kings that have rulership. And upon his heads, the name of blasphemy, because this entire beast is in opposition to the Most High. Revelation 13:2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And a dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So this beast has different characteristics of Edomite kingdoms that have ruled. It's likened unto a leopard because the Greeks, predominantly Alexander the Greek, he was known for his leopard skin hat and his leopard skin on his horse. That's why they're known as a leopard in Daniel, the 7th chapter. So it has traits of the Greeks with their democracy, right? Architecture, etc. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, right? So we read in Daniel 2 that the last kingdom to rule was the feet of iron and part of clay. The last Edomite kingdom that's going to be in power before Yahushua returns is Russia. They are the feet of the bear, right? Their symbol is, in fact, the bear, right? When you pull up the Russian bear, right? The Russian bear is a popular and widespread symbol of Russia, representing the country in various forms, from political cartoons and literature to the name of a nuclear bomber, the 295 bear, right? The Eurasian brown bear is a native to Russia and is seen by some Russians as a symbol of strength and resilience, right? So that's why it's likened unto the bear. And it's the feet. Because when it's all said and done, Russia is going to be the leading Edomite power prior to Yahushua returning. America's going to be collapsing through civil war, decay, and debt and famine. But Russia is going to be the power of Gog and Magog, pursuant to Ezekiel the 38th and 39th chapter. That's where they're called the feet of the bear in Revelation 13. So reading on in Revelation chapter 13:2. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. The lion represents England or Britain. A lot of the politics, the Rothschilds, the monarchy, the finances, and laws of finance, they come out of England. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So that Roman Empire, right, is the strength of this beast. Now, again, their feet as the feet of a bear. That's talking about Russia. So we know what's going to happen, right? I think everybody knows. That's why I had this article. This from months ago, earlier in the year. What is this? I believe this was March, sometime earlier in the year. Yep, March 21st. It says, Europe is working on a plan to replace the United States and NATO in 5 to 10 years. So they're done. America's done. This links directly up with Obadiah. What do we read in Obadiah? that they have laid a wound under thee. They that eat thy bread have prevailed against thee. So they're working behind the scenes to overthrow America. Europe working on plans to replace the US and NATO in 5 to 10 years. NATO members seek to avoid possible chaos should the US declare its withdrawal from the transatlantic military bloc. So they're already coming up with plans. And they're sick of America, man. They are sick of America. And they're divided. And this shows you divided. They're already having councils against one another. They're having councils against one another. Right? Let's go to the book of Matthew. I don't believe I read it, right? But I talked about it. Matthew, the 12th chapter. Right? And we bring this out all the time. We're going to keep bringing it out. Matthew chapter 12 and 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So we know NATO is not going to stand. We know that, man. Right? And again, they're conflicted as we speak. They're conflicted on what to do. NATO divided on how to respond. How to respond. Now, this is from 2 hours ago. This is coming in hot. It would be war, right? This 2 hours ago, right? September 27th, 4:21 a.m. So somewhere in the other side of the world would be war. Russian ambassadors threat as NATO clashes over whether to shoot down or down Russian jets. A Russian ambassador has warned that shooting down Moscow's aircraft would trigger war as NATO grapples with how to respond to airspace violations. I know how to respond. Shoot it down. Shoot it down. They're saying it's going to be war. It's going to be war. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50, man. This is exciting. I'm excited, man. We just had a blood moon. A brother sent the blood moon in the chat, I believe yesterday, man. Right? You just had a massive blood moon. So we're praying that that's a sign of war and a sign of further destruction in the land of the living, man. Oh, brother said he can't see the screen. Salakia. Right? Let me pull this back up. Right? So Salaki, let me pull this up. Right? And pull up what I just showed. Right? Let's pull this up. Right? I believe if you didn't see the Russian bear, this was madness. Hold on, bear with me. All right, Salaki, you got the sound playing. All right. So I had the for brothers that didn't see it, I had the Russian bear pulled up, going to Revelation the 13th chapter. Then the other article I pulled up was from Al Jazeera. It says Europe working on a plan to replace the United States and NATO in 5 to 10 years. So I also pulled that up. Most of our brothers saw that. If not, you can look more on that on your own. They're looking to replace the US. And the third thing I had, it says would be war. This is from 2 hours ago. Again, this is coming in hot. News.com.au. Russian ambassador threat as NATO clashes over whether to shoot down jets. Russia is prepared to go to war if NATO acts on threats to shoot down Moscow's fighter jets, an ambassador said. And guess who's the one saying shoot it down, America. Right? America. They're saying shoot it down. We want war. We want war. We want war. Bring it on. That's what America's saying. Their look is more stout than their fellows. And the rest of the EU is like, I don't really know about that, man. Slow down. Let's think about this. America said, we want war. And Russia said, all right, we want war. Hey, China rubbing their mittens too, man. They rubbing Hey, they licking their chops, man. You know, they just signed that Russia signed that nuclear deal with Iran. $25 billion to build nuclear facilities. We just had a blood one. We want war. See, let's go to, you can say, well, I don't know about that. You know, why do you want war? Is that something that is Jesus-like? Would Jesus want war? I thought the Lord said, think not that I've come to send peace, but a sword. Right? The Lord said that. Now here's a prayer against the enemies of the church. This Ecclesiasticus, I mean, this whole thing is good. I'm not going to read the whole thing, right? But this is right, chapter 39 and verse number 7. Raise up indignation and pour out wrath. Take away the adversary and destroy the enemy. This is a prayer. When you read this chapter, verses 1 through 17 is a prayer for the destruction of all of our enemies. Beautiful prayer. Raise up indignation and pour out wrath. Take away the adversary and destroy the enemy. Make the time short. That's what time is flying. September's almost over with. It just started. And it's almost over with. The time is short. For the elect's sakes, the Lord has shortened the days, or will shorten the days. Make the time short. Remember the covenant, and let them declare thy wonderful works. Let him that escapeth be consumed by the rage of the fire, and let them perish that oppress the people. Smite and sunder the heads of the rulers of the heathen that say, there is none other but we. So right now, the Most High smite and sunder the heads of the rulers of the heathen. All these leaders are divided, all these rulers. They're all being broken down. Let me get this in Job real quick. Right? Let's go to Job chapter 12. Right? This is Job chapter 12 and verse number 17. Right? Job chapter 12 and verse 17. He leadeth counselors away spoiled and maketh the judges full. So all these counselors, all these top ambassadors, wise men that are supposed to protect the peace of their civilians and prevent war, the Most High is bringing them to war. The Lord said in Ecclesiastes, I'm going to get it too, Lord willing, chapter 8 and verse 8. There is no man that hath power over the spirit to retain the spirit. Neither hath he power in the day of death. And there is no discharge in that war. Neither shall wickedness deliver those who are given to it, paraphrasing. So whatever spirit the Most High put on you, there's nothing you can do. If the Most High wants a spirit of war in you, doesn't matter how many times you pray. Doesn't matter what your politicians say. Doesn't matter what you vote for. If the Most High put a spirit on you, you have to retain that spirit. The Most High made Moses bold. Moses wasn't naturally bold. The Lord raised up Gideon. He put a spirit on Gideon. Gideon was, he was humble. He was shy. He was timid. The Most High has taken these counselors and all their years of learning. Remember, these guys, man, they have decades of schooling, masters and doctorates, and they have books and books of political science and geopolitics, and they still don't have the damn answers or how to keep their kingdom alive. The Lord did that. He made them a fool. He loosed the bond of kings and girded their loins with a girdle. He could loosen your strength or strengthen you as a king. He leadeth princes away spoiled, like these different dukes, and overthroweth the mighty. Right? He's overthrowing mighty Edomite kingdoms. He removeth away the speech of the trusty, and taketh away the understanding of the aged. He poureth contempt upon princes, and weakeneth the strength of the mighty. These are the days we're living in. where the Most High is pouring contempt upon princes, and he's weakening the strength of the mighty. All praises to Yahweh Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushua for weakening the strength of the mighty. Right? So again, we're watching. This came in hot. The latest news is Russia is prepared to go to war. Right? They are prepared to go to war. They say Western military alliance stands ready to take decisive action when faced with threats to member nations. Right? So we're waiting to see, man. We're watching and we're waiting. But these are the last days of the 10 toes. They're divided. They don't know what to do. And a prophecy says that they are ultimately going to be destroyed as well. That's the judgment. Right? They shall cleave. It's like they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they should not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. They're going to destroy America, but ultimately they're going to be destroyed by Yahweh Shah. So with that, we're going to close up. And we know that before we get that, I got to read that. Before I get that, I got to read that, right? Let's see the end of the 10 toes. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of hosts and the King of kings, or King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So you're going to have the EU be taken out. They're going to get hit by bombs too. They're going to get jammed up. When you read Revelation, the 9th chapter, 1 on down, the Lord said he saw the missiles coming down from heaven, and he started hitting the bottomless pit. So NATO's going to get involved. The European Union is going to get involved. Let me get that real quick, right? Let's get that real quick in Revelation 9. Revelation 9 and 1. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven into the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So the stars represent the missiles that fall into the earth. Even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. So once these missiles begin to hit the bottomless pit, that represents Europe and NATO. And it's going to open them up into this war and get them involved in war. Right? Now, I'm not going to read the whole chapter because we broke this down before. But let's read on. Let's read one more verse. And he opened the bottomless pit. So Europe is going to get involved in this war, Western Europe. And there arose smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So when all those missiles drop, it's going to look like how the Lord, hit Sodom and Gomorrah, right? The sun and the air is going to be darkened. It's going to be war. It's going to be complete destruction out there in Europe. And then Europe is going to get involved. And they're going to be fighting in Europe. They're going to be fighting in the Middle East. When Yahweh Shah returns, he's going to take them down in the valley of Jehoshaphat. Right? And that's what this is in Revelation 17 and 14. When it says, these shall make war with the Lamb. So you're going to have all these armies fighting in different places. And 2nd Ezra 13, it says one realm against another. But when Yahweh Shah returns to that Middle East, he's going to end the war by destroying all of those armies. And the chariots and Michael, the archangel, are going to destroy the rest of the wicked on the earth and sever the righteous from amongst the wicked. So the 10 toes, they're going to make war with the Lamb. They're really going to believe that iron is enough to defeat the Lamb, failing to realize that they are also clay. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashima Mashiach, Wamalak Yahushai. Most High willing you are edified. Keep the Sabbath holy. No buying, no selling, no cooking, no work. No sex on the Sabbath, no speaking your own words, doing your own pleasures. Get your spirit right. The Day of Atonement is September 29th at sundown. You know, brothers got different calendars, right? Brothers are rehearsing the righteous acts. September 29th at sundown. Prepare your spirit for the Day of Atonement. Prepare your tabernacle. You're the tabernacle. You're the tent. Remove all of the leaven and wickedness from your tabernacle before you actually build your physical tent. Take care of your spiritual tent. As a man's tent is, that's how his life is in his truth. And prepare your spirit through self-examination for the Day of Atonement that draws nigh. So again, with that, Most High willing, you